behind you.
Oh, he's so
I
cute. He's the nicest guy. I just love that dog. He's
think
the best.
that we are live. Hello, everybody. We
Hi.
are here to talk about immune
Let's talk
systems.
about Luca.
Yeah, look at the dog. He's like, and I'm coming in to hear about my mucous membranes and my um my
What
ear.
you don't know about the dog is that he is massive. I feel like he's like part Great Dane or something. He looks very cute and sweet on the sofa looking behind me, but he just kept getting taller and taller and taller, and he's still a puppy. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to, great. So talking about immune system, because Hillary, it's just been a crazy winter. What are you seeing there in California?
So to be fair, I don't think in Northern California, I don't think we've quite yet been hit with flu, but people are having just kind of longer term chronic symptoms and inflammation, but I haven't yet seen the like ding 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 with flu. So I think it's still yet to come in California flu. That said, we're doing all this stuff to prepare. But people are having some sinus stuff, like more low grade. So we want to talk to you about flu prep and ways to treat your immune system, and then just ways to kind of deal with the junk and the crud so that you don't end up on antibiotics. I did have a patient who went for a complete ear, the ears clogged. I'm seeing a lot of ear symptoms, ear clogging, and she had no pain, no fever, was told she had an ear infection by the urgent care doc, was given Augmentin, which is quite an antibiotic, and a steroid. And she and I talked because she had many gut symptoms that she had been in recovery from. So she was like, should I take the antibiotics? And that's always where it's like, well, not really. Like, if you're walking around, you don't have a fever, you're not in acute pain, then no, like, that's the best window for natural medicines. Like, let's try to get
Yeah.
the fluid out before you get knocked on your booty. If you get knocked on your booty, you might need medicine, but like, that's when natural medicine's at its best. It's at its best if you've been exposed, if you've been sneezed on, coughed on in
Mhm.
a small room, and you're like, when you just have that feeling
Mhm.
like, oh no,
That's not good.
or when you first have symptoms, like when you hit it really hard in the beginning, natural medicine's at its best. And when many people will go for sinus stuff, really, we're not indicated to treat with antibiotics. My patients still get mad and frustrated unless you've really had major stuckness for 2 weeks. So it's a really long haul that people can end up being sick and congested. So we just want you to have a ton of natural medicine tools to get you through that much faster.
And we're big believers in having these things at your house. So at the first sign of being sick, you can load up and avoid the length of the sickness. You can make that much shorter or potentially avoiding getting a bacterial infection. Because most of these things, Hillary, greater than 80% in our adult populations, started out as viral infections, right? And then what happens is the viruses are replicating in the nasopharynx, which is sort of like in the middle of your head, way back here, in the back of your throat, where the like back of your where when you choke up drinks because you're laughing so hard, that pain happens in the back of your throat. You know that like burning that happens? That's where
Barfing.
the fire. Okay, that's good. You know the word. Okay, so that's where they're replicating, and those viruses then cause inflammation in your mucous membranes, and then you can't pass fluids really easily, like up your sinuses. That stuckness is literally fluid. It's like mucus and fluid. And once that fluid accumulates, then you have a hot, warm environment, and then your bacteria can grow. They love that, right? So that's why we're big fans of steam showers, hot cups of tea, and just trying to keep your nasal passages clear. But where I am, so in New England here, it is so dry. It's crazy dry. I was just telling before we got on the call, I wake up in the morning, I hardly can talk because my skin is so dry because the heat's on in my house and it is dry heat, really dry here. And so that dryness in your car when you're driving your car and the heat's flying at you, or if your workplace has, heat kind of coming right at you, very often people have like little air heaters positioned so it's blowing right at their faces, and that's not good for you. So try and keep dry heat away from your face, because the car heater, if you keep the top ones on, you should really turn those top ones off and keep it heating just your feet. It dries out the mucous membranes, and that can make viruses adhere more easily. So dryness is a little bit of a problem here. So that's why we're always talking about hydration, right, Hill?
I know it's funny, like in the winter, dryness is such a big deal. In California, we have a little bit more rain and humidity, so it's like, but I like hydration is just so important in the winter. I think that like in the summer we're thirsty more. In the
Right.
winter, we're not as thirsty. We don't crave it as much because our body temperature, we're not sweating, we're not out, it's not sunny, it's like all the things.
Mhm.
And so it kind of can take the back burner. Um, anyway, so I
Yeah, go ahead.
can I just say one of the things before we start talking about the immune system and products, like I can't stress the importance of diet. And Kara and I always teach a detox in January, and that is upcoming. And if you need support with diet, we've pretty much been on the holiday run from November through December, where there's just more sugar, all the things, sugar, alcohols, if you consume that, it just adds up. And so many of us turn the corner into January and we're fairly exhausted and we haven't eaten our best. So we do a cleanup on aisle 9 with the diet in January, going back to a lot of broths, simple food, getting rid of a lot of the thick, heavy creams, getting rid of sugars, getting rid of um, wheats and the cookies and the different kinds of things that we've been indulging in, sort of often just unconsciously eating. So that is upcoming. And if you've never done a detox program with us, they're very gentle. It's very user friendly. It's not stressful or hard. It's not like you're like juice fasting for 10 days in the winter. It's not like that. You're eating foods. It's just a very creative, artful group where we're kind of putting food back on the forefront, getting creative again, eating a lot of colors, eating a lot of vitamin A's, vitamin C's, recommitting to eating our nutrients and getting our nutrient density up while getting a lot of the inflammatory foods down. And that's just such a crucial piece to this immune puzzle. So we're going to get into products, but the diet is the foundation. And now's the time to get your bone broth simmering and to get all these things, get, like I said, these winter vegetables. So winter vegetables are dark leafy greens, all the yellows and orange foods, sweet potatoes, winter squashes, like those are all there for a reason to give you the potent nutrients to help your immune system.
Yeah, that's so important. So the polyphenols are what those are. So I'm just gonna like really quickly share this. So in the link that you're all going to have, if you want to look at the products for Fullscript, we're using Fullscript. So they have these handouts, which are phenomenal. So it's just good to remind ourselves of what are the vitamin C rich foods that we could focus on in the winter. So this is just an easy graphic, and Hillary and I always point out that bell peppers and the colored peppers especially have the most vitamin C in them out of these foods. So eat your colored
Cut up
peppers.
red
Those are really
pepper,
great.
so
I
good.
love them. So, Brussels sprouts, yes, we know oranges, but kiwis are really great in the grocery stores right now. Really nice organic kiwis, even here, which is sort of hard to get good citrus. But yeah, your tomatoes, your grapefruit, but don't forget your broccoli and your Brussels and all that. And then Hillary had mentioned the other brightly colored foods. So these polyphenols are really important to support your mucous membranes. We talk about them a lot for gut, right, Hillary? Because gut is a mucous membrane. So all the lining in your lungs, up your nose, down your throat, your esophagus, down all through your digestive tract, that lining is a mucous membrane. So anything that's good for one is good for the other ones too, right? So these foods are really good for supporting your flora, so your microbiome. So these polyphenol-rich foods are, almonds and apples and berries and olives. Cloves is on this list, which is fun. We don't think about cloves so much. Dark chocolate, flax meal, spinach, cherries, soybean products. So I'd like to just bring that to your attention because those foods might really help to prevent the viruses, and they might be antiviral in through working through different systems. So one is by decreasing inflammation in general in your mucous membranes, and another is your really good bacteria that are found in ENT. So there's very specific microbiome up your nose, down your throat. And what we've done is look at the research of people of these specific strains don't get strep, really. They don't get sinusitis. These people just don't ever need antibiotics for a sinus infection. Let's look at what are those strains growing in those folks, those actual humans, and can we take them to potentially prevent these kind of sicknesses? Or
That's
if
so
we're
exciting.
chronically,
I mean, it's such an
yeah.
exciting advancement in medicine. Like, it really has made a huge difference for women to understand the flora vaginally and with urinary tract infections and vaginal infections. Like, we can really nip a lot of medicate where women don't need medication, where women stop getting recurring infections. And so now that it's coming to, and we have a microbiome here, like, that's so massive because people get the same infections typically over and over and over again. Typically,
Mhm.
it'll be like, well, when I was a kid, I got strep twice a year, or when I get in ear, I always get a cough that or a sniffle that goes into a cough that leads into a pneumonia, or I always get an ear infection or a sore throat that lingers. So, like, if you're somebody that gets the same thing over, like, this microbiome picture is really important for you, and it can prevent
Yeah.
so much misery. We've really seen it over the last, we've been treating women with probiotics, proper probiotic strains for 5 to 10 years, like a while. So now it's so exciting that, like, there's just more info about this area and how to
Mhm.
treat that. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, and so Hillary, tell about too. So these probiotics, we would think to give people who have those chronic kind of ear stuffiness. Tell us about that.
Well, it's just the anything, like, all this tissue. Oh, the ear opens up into the throat, and, like, sometimes people just don't recognize that that's a thing.
Hmm.
So we tend to, with stuffy chronic ear, like ear backup, it's hard to treat the ears. The ears are, there's this really thin membrane. So we, in old school naturopathic medicine, if you've ever been around a naturopathic doctor when you had small kids, we use ear oil for everybody, garlic ear oil. And it's tough with adults because you walk around smelling like Chinese food on some level. But, like, my kids just knew, like, oh my God, here she comes with the you warm it up and you use the ear oil. But the garlic penetrates through the membrane, it works as an antimicrobial. But what we want to do is also really treat the throat. The tonsils tends to be an area where a ton of bacteria hang out and land. And in this, like, post-COVID world where there was a lot of viruses around, like, COVID kind of allowed for more Epstein-Barr virus and strep. We saw this a lot in the teenagers during COVID, where they got mono, then they got strep, they had COVID, then mono, then strep, and it all kind of landed like in their tonsils and
Mhm.
causing a lot of, like, ear change. Because so what we want to do is get really good bacteria in this whole area to fight off the critters that aren't meant to be there.
Mhm. So in your link, you can look, there's an ENT specific probiotic there that you just take one a day. It doesn't replace your other probiotics. because it's the specific strains for folks who don't tend to get these inflammations in the mucous membranes in their heads. You want to take those if this is something you struggle with. It's something to really look at. And then we did give you an example of one of those ear oils that we like. So it's typically an olive oil base, and herbs are actually heated or extracted into the olive oil. So those are anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial herbs. And you put a few drops in your the outside of your ear, you cover it with a cotton ball. You lay on your side and watch something, read something sideways, whatever it is, and you just let it sit there for maybe 20 minutes, something like that every day. Sometimes, and then you do the other side. Sometimes that really helps people clear out that kind of stuck inflammation behind the eardrum.
A lot of times. Like that is potent medicine.
It
And
is.
if you can use it, you want to warm it up to body temperature. It's really uncomfortable putting cold oil in. So I heat up a little glass of water and just stick the whole glass container just in the warm water. It warms the whole oil up just a little bit to body temperature. And
Mhm.
you just literally stick the glass thing in, drop, and rub around, and you can kind of hang out before bed. It can be really useful, especially don't have your nicest pillowcase. But because you'll have a little garlic ear oil potentially on it, but that can really help if you feel like clogged or an ear infection coming on. What I hate is giving rounds, 10 days of antibiotics or 7 days of antibiotics. You have to give a high dose for ear infections. And it's just frustrating when we can use topical treatments, treating the ear, treating the throat, and communicating to the backside of the ear through the throat, clearing the sinuses. That can often raising the immune system, helping to decrease mucus. That can often be the treatment needed. Now, if you've gone into having a super high fever, or you're not really hearing anything, or you're in exquisite pain, ears can cause exquisite pain if they're very inflamed, then okay. But if you're just starting, these natural medicines do such a good job at helping you avoid antibiotics.
So we did the inside the ears, and now there's a nasal spray that we put in the plan as an example for you that has a grapefruit seed extract in it. So that's a really strong antimicrobial that you just spray right up your nose. It does taste kind of citrusy for sure, and it's sharp, right? Because it's an antimicrobial. So that if you feel like you're growing things like you do the nasal spray, that's something we like people to have on hand at their homes. And then Hillary mentioned the throat spray. So we have sort of like, let's apply herbs in all these different areas while working to build your system with, of course, your good hydration, your good sleep, your great diet. And then we have this really amazing throat spray that is echinacea and propolis, and it's very, very antimicrobial that you just put right in the back of your throat. You spray it back there, and it tastes horrible. It smells horrible, but it kills the viruses replicating back there. So we really like that as something to have on hand. As soon as you feel like you get that sore throat, that's when I do it. I just start doing two sprays and kind of swallowing it a little bit. And it's sharp. It is. I wouldn't do that if you're allergic to those aster family plants. Like echinacea is a pretty common allergy out there. So people who have a chamomile allergy or something like that, you have to be a little bit careful with that one. But echinacea is such a good immune stimulant that a lot of people like to use it, right,
And
Hillary?
that throat spray, like I'm telling you, we've been doing this job for 20 years. I just, that throat spray is super magical. Like
It
if you
is. It's
wake
earth
up in
gold.
the,
It is.
often viruses start with a sore throat. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's just often you wake up and you have a sore throat in the morning, and you usually get a day or two before everything starts to fill in. And the mucus comes typically day 3, day 4, day 5. But that sore throat, it's not a joke, it's a warning. And if you treat that sore throat, you will reduce your total viral time. I mean, the majority of people. Now, obviously, your stress, your exposures, all kinds of things come into play. But I have my patients nasal spray pretty much every hour if during the first day or two of something, and then throat spray. You stick that throat spray all the way back. You're trying to land on the tonsil and on the back pillar of the throat. When you go to the doctor and we know your virus is coming, you have a virus coming on, you have a red pillar in your throat. It's just where the inflammation lands. It's where Kara said that the virus is trying to replicate, the immune system's trying to fight. It's where the action is. And those herbs on contact, well, first of all, it's in alcohol. Okay, so be mindful if you're sober, you don't want to use this product. It's in alcohol, but the alcohol kills things on contact. And then the herbs, just there's an antiviral and antibacterial, but those things work. So if you have your throat spray and your nasal spray out on your desk, if you're working and you stick it back, spray on the hour, it just helps to clear things so much.
It does. And
I
then my
also,
nose waters and everything. It's like your eyes
you're just
start to
getting stuff
tear.
out and moving things. And I also love, I mean, you can't underestimate the warm salt water gargle. I mean, it
Yeah.
really makes a difference. And if
Mhm.
you don't want to deal with making salt water and you have a little hydrogen peroxide in your bathroom, you could do half hydrogen peroxide, half water. You don't swallow it, but you gargle with it. Anything that you're getting on contact in this area, it communicates with the ear. It helps to communicate with the nose and sinus, all of this stuff you're working on, and that just reduces your total viral time. If you do nothing and ignore it, well, and then you go eat dairy, you're going to end up the next day or in 2 days waking up so much more congested. And the congestion is just kind of horrific and what we want to get rid of fastest.
Absolutely. So anything that causes inflammation. So it could be any of your trigger foods, which is what, we do in the detox is kind of go off all these very typical foods that cause people inflammation. And then you see how those foods were probably affecting you. But the last product that we have in our full script link is a mushroom combination that I really like the idea of using mushrooms. I always want them to be organic. So this is an organic mushroom blend, mycoimmunity. It's a really common um, blend, but mushrooms are amazing at working with your immune system. So mushrooms are just really well researched and you don't need a lot of them. So the mushrooms on this sort of list of things is the things that I'm taking daily, and you don't have to take a lot. You just take 2 capsules. It just keeps your immune system going and it really changes what goes on in your mucous membrane as far as inflammation and what your immune system's doing along that lining. It's really stimulating to the immune system there. So it's just a really good thing to be doing during these winter months. And that's it.
The more you play in the beginning, the longer, I mean, the faster you make
Yeah.
this thing run. And the more you, like you said, hydrate, like
Mhm.
drinking tons of teas. I just love that throat coat tea from traditional medicinals. It's so old school, but it works so, it's such a good
It
combo.
does.
Hydrate your tissues, move this stuff along. We can do another segment sometime on over-the-counter meds that we actually do really like. There are some that I like that can help, but these guys, these natural medicines, they
Mhm.
do reduce your total sick time. And if you end up not sort of sitting on your hands and ignoring it and letting it run, these colds can take 2 to 3 weeks and you end up on steroids or antibiotics at the end of it. It's just like no fun. So treat it
Right.
early.
All right. That's the message. Get on top of it. Bye,
Happy
everybody.
winter.